Well, hello everybody. I'm here today with my newish friend, Shawndi, who I'm so excited to be speaking with around the subject of the masculine and the feminine. The first thing I want to say is just a little bit about how Shawndi came into my life. And I'm trying to remember if it was maybe 3 months, 4 months ago. I can't remember the exact timeline, but it was at a beautiful local women's circle in a teepee around a fire. I think it was back in January actually, and
Yeah, I think you're right.
entering
Yep.
entering this powerful year of the fire horse, and she brought a really beautiful conversation around the masculine and feminine, and really brought it beyond the subjects of men and women as subjects and into the energies of the masculine and feminine. And this is something that has been a deep and important part of my entire life journey. I don't know how many people know this, but way back in college, in my undergrad years, I actually got a degree in women's gender, sex, and society with my part of my degree. Um, and and the more that I've like dived into somatic healing and energy healing and pranic healing and trauma reprocessing, the more that I've discovered that like what keeps us in this state of evolution and growth is actually the balancing of our left and right hemispheres of our brain, of our masculine and feminine, whether we are male bodied or female bodied. And then the beauty of stepping into the polarity in our exact precise bodies and their exact precise configurations on this earth walk as a beautiful expression of learning that balance within ourselves and our own energy. And one thing that I really, really appreciate about you, Shawndi, like from the first time that I met you in that circle around the fire, it was just really clear to me that you are someone who follows your soul's path. And this is what I coach people on. Like it's one thing to kind of sense it or daydream about it. And then it's another thing to be like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm letting this thing pull me through my life, and I'm doing these things I never thought I'd be doing. I'm having these conversations I never thought I'd be having. And it's taking so much courage, but I trust it. And even the way that you described certain things going on where you would step up and just become a channel for this information that wanted to come through you, and how it then would lead to these beautiful healing moments where trauma that had been in your nervous system for years just melted away, which is exactly, yeah, exactly what I teach. It's what I teach is how we learn. What I teach is how the shackles fall away when we follow that light and heart. And so I just noticed that in you right away. And I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last few months and your energy. So it's just like that, plus the subject of the masculine and feminine. So much of my own healing has been around that in my own life and my relationship with men and men in my past, and healing those wounds and then finding a new way to be with the masculine and the feminine in myself and in my life. And so I'm really excited about what what we might share today that would be really a benefit to the community. And maybe I know there will be some new things that you can share about some recent experiences you've had since I saw you last. But also maybe you can tell your version of the story of coming into this work. And it sounds like you resonate from the look on your face with following the soul's path, and the surprise of that. If you want to maybe just share a little bit about that for you and how that began and where you're at with it now.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be with you. I love our conversations too. And yeah, I'll try to. I'm not a very brief person, so I'll try to say this as succinctly as possible. But yeah, I it kind of hit me abruptly last year. I had this like realization. I was working with a life coach and I was kind of unpacking things in my life. And I just had this like literal, I was like sitting in my living room and I remember this, it's like this veil lifted. And I realized how much in my life I am in what I call my masculine energy. And I had never really thought of that before. I had I am a strong, confident, capable, independent, badass. Like I'm a boss. I'm a business owner. I'm a
So
mother.
many women relate. Who relates to
Yeah.
this? Like,
Like I
empowered
am a
woman is actually
doer,
the masculine woman.
It
Yes.
gets done. Yeah. and and I realized, like, so I bought the practice that I own. I'm a physical therapist. I bought it in 2019, and it was 14 months before COVID happened. And then we had, a staffing crisis, and we had interest rate hikes, and we had all these things that have happened. And I just kind of have been in this motion of like just forward motion, forward motion, forward motion, doing, 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 doing. And I had this realization. I was like, I don't wear skirts anymore. It's like, it sounds like such a silly thing to think about. But then I realized, okay, I am in my doing mode. I am, constantly making decisions, constantly in leadership, constantly in this kind of like, I am the boss. Um, and I realized how much I missed my energy of the feminine. And for me, that is like playful and fun and funny and sensual and like dancing and flowing and like being, right? Like I barely ever sit on my couch. And
Hmm.
I don't be very much. And I'm lucky that my job is touch. So I'm a physical therapist, but I'm a manual therapist primarily. So in a lot of ways, like I still get that like loving, touching, empathy piece in my life. But it was just this like stark realization of this polarity within me that felt like it had gotten really off balance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's so wild because typically when I get kind of like when my mind gets sparked onto something, I'm like research mode. So I'm looking for podcasts and I'm looking for information and I'm researching and I'm studying. And there was something in me, and the only thing that I can say is that it felt like it was direct from source, which is a newer thing for me to say. But there's no other way to explain it, that it felt like there is something about this realization that was a purpose in my life. And I
Hmm.
needed to find out organically what that
Hmm.
was, as
Hmm.
opposed to like searching for information and getting fed information and being influenced by the influencer.
Like the feminine, it strikes me that what you're saying is like what you could call the feminine approach to it. It's like, let's just follow this and dance with it instead of trying to tackle it and package it and understand or, put it in a box of comprehension.
Yeah,
Yeah.
logic my
And
way
so,
through.
and as you've been doing this, I've heard a little bit of the story. How has it been to just say fully yes to that unfolding and that dance with the universe around this? And I love how you described it just coming in. It's informing your embodiment as much as your mind, like your how you're walking, how you're moving in the world, what conversations you're having. How has it shifted your orientation in life? What has been opening up for you since you and also just to orient people, what would you say is the like how would you call the pursuit of like is it learning about masculine feminine polarity? Is it about healing the masculine feminine? What would you say is the thing that is sort of how would you wrap it in a word for
Yeah, like the
everybody?
calling, the calling.
Yeah, the calling, yes.
Yeah, it's so funny because at first it felt really personal, right? Like, how do I bring feminine back into my world? So I was a dancer growing up. Dance has always been part of my life. And I like just like poured myself back into dance because I thought, oh, like leadership, I get to follow. Like in dance, I get to follow in partner dance. Um, so there was a piece of it that originally was like, just, I need to figure this out for me. Like, I need to regain my own balance. And then I just literally like I just felt like doors kept opening, and I promised myself and what I feel like is like my connection to source. I promised that I would just walk through every door that was open to me,
Yeah,
which is
that's a
like
commitment.
without
That's a
any
big, yeah.
knowledge or direction and I am like I am typically like very organized, very direction focused, very like, okay, this is where I'm going. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. So it's like, this is where I'm going and I'm be really damn good at it, right? And I
Yeah.
was just like, I have no idea. And like even, even asking to speak with you, it's like, oh my gosh, like so much imposter syndrome in a lot of ways. But I think to answer your original question of like how it shifted me is that I realized how far I had gotten away from my body and how much I had gotten in my head. I
Yes.
think one thing that I've really noticed in the shift is the trusting of my intuition, the trusting of this inner guidance that, like wherever it's coming from, that it knows something that I don't actually know. Um, and it's just
Yes.
been a
Yes.
beautiful invitation to step into, I mean, to be honest, uncomfortable conversations, masculine and feminine, as I realized throughout this process is like there's a lot of wounding around that. There's a lot of triggering. There's a lot of discomfort for people in even the words. Um, and so I've stepped into very uncomfortable things. I've had conversations where I felt like I'm not an expert at this, but people are like, tell me more.
Yeah.
So it's been like
Yeah.
so humbling and so trusting and like so getting me back into that kind of feminine intuition of like
Mm.
there's something here. There's just something here and it's unexplainable. And I
Yeah.
just have to trust
Yeah.
that I'm
Yeah.
a vessel of some sort and it's gonna just come forward at some point.
Yeah. It makes me think of something that I discovered in my own healing journey and that I share a lot with people, which is if we fully embrace exactly the thing in us that is, whether you call it the wound or the conditioning or the karma, whatever that is, like instead of being shy about it because it's personal or whatever, it's like, no, actually, the more personal it is, the more tender and intimate and raw that is, the closer you are to opening up to something that's actually going to be really powerful for everybody else and in most service to everybody else. And so your story is like such a beautiful example of that, and how you embracing this for yourself now. You're having conversations, you're being invited into men's groups, you're being invited into spaces to have conversations about the very thing that you went inside and did some healing with yourself around. Um, I'm just like, I'm curious what the sort of insights you are gaining as you like move from the inside to the outside, from the inside of like, okay, I'm not going to be shy and I'm going to say yes to the unknown. I'm going to devote myself to healing this thing in me. And then I'm just going to watch it. I use the metaphor of a flower in my metamorphosis process because it's like healing is like just like going from a seed to a sprout to a flower. And you're like, I don't know what color I'll be, but I trust it. And then as it's happening, you do start to see the color and you're like, oh my God, I'm orange and yellow and purple or whatever. So what are you discovering as you begin to open these conversations? And I think this will be interesting, not just for people who are working up the courage, like you have to say yes to whatever that is for them, but
Mhm.
also this subject in particular of the masculine and feminine is like the oldest conversation in duality, right? I mean, we've been talking a lot too, and I studied systems of oppression in college and all of the different ways that we other each other, whether that's race, class, gender, sexual orientation, economic status, ability, etc. But in a way, this masculine, feminine, this yin and yang is like the original like split, right? It's the original. Before it was even men and women, it was, the yin and the yang, the water and the fire, the air and the heaven and earth, the this existence which exists in the polarity. So I think for the sake of that conversation, it's really relevant to all of us, and especially right now as we're going into a rebirth time on the earth around integrating some very deep wounds and rifts between groups of people. So I'd love to hear what it's been like for you, both personally and like as you start to see what's happening in response to you saying yes to this. and then like, yeah, how it's deepened your understanding of this age-old
Mhm.
thing that is just, I mean, there's so much we could say, but I just want to hear what comes fresh from you as you've been so fresh in this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, those are all like such great. We could talk forever.
Yeah.
um, I think what like generally comes up for me was I like as I was stepping into this and trusting it and just like really like I felt like I got, you know, information or intuition, whatever you want to call it, to really dive into a better understanding of men. So I
Mhm.
think, you
Mhm.
know, as a woman, I feel really, really blessed and privileged and lucky to have been surrounded by amazing women where we have really deep conversations a lot about deep, deep soul work and deep, deep, you know, healing and heart work and all these things. And so I feel like I have a pretty good idea being a woman and being surrounded by women, um, about women and women's process. And I started talking to girlfriends about this that are also, you know, strong, confident, independent, badass women, right? And it's like, God, do you ever feel like this is what's going on for you? And some people were like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And some of my girlfriends were like, wow, like, why would you call that masculine? You know, why don't you just call that your badass self, right? And some interesting dynamics coming forward that I didn't even really like, I didn't identify with as far as like the feminist movement and like, and this kind of like, these little cracks started appearing for me when as I was talking to people, and I got this really strong intuition that I needed to interview men. And so, and again, like I was like, there was a part of me that's like, do I get on dating apps and just say like, hey, I'm not really dating, I just want to like interview you? And I'm like, that's kind of a bait and switch, that's not cool. But I started talking to men and they were like, I want to be interviewed. And I had
Mm.
probably about 30 hours of recorded interviews with men, just one on one, sitting on my couch. I asked if I could record, and we just had these most incredible conversations about how they grew up and what their masculine role models were and what masculinity means to them and what is femininity, and could they like, is it hard to identify that some of the energy within them is feminine, and you know, when was a pivotal point in their life where they remember like a family member saying, okay, now it's not okay to cry anymore, like you're too old for that, right? Like there were so many just amazing moments of like clarity for me, understanding men and what they've been through. And and I have this additional draw that I have a son and a daughter. And so
Mm.
raising them and watching them and like trying not to like instill these gender norms, but also realizing that like it still exists in society and there are things and pressures that like me as one mother I can't really like, you know, change or divert from. And
Mhm.
so like all this information is coming in and all this realization is coming in of like these little fissures initially are kind of starting to like come into my focus, and then starting to like realize people are getting a little bit more comfortable like telling me how they really feel about it. And I'm
Yeah.
realizing like, God, this is like literally, this is more of a chasm than I thought between
Yeah.
men and
Yeah.
women.
Yeah. And
And
probably also, oh, sorry.
yeah,
Yeah. I was going to
yeah.
say, and probably also between ourselves, in those parts of ourselves, because I really relate with that. I mean, even just last week, I had a really powerful shamanic healing session in which I was shown the ways I was still stuck in my masculine that were like, I was totally like, what? That is still there. And I really want to caveat this by saying, the masculine not being a negative thing, but in this way that what you're describing, like it's so confusing to just find our own healthy masculine and feminine currents in each of our bodies when the culture around us is still holding in the collective nervous system a trauma around how masculinity and femininity are defined or polarized or maybe polarized isn't the right word, like hierarchized, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
difference, and this is what I heard a little bit in your story too, the difference isn't so much the problem, like The difference is the way it's judged, compartmentalized, and creates systems of judgment and hierarchy versus a beautiful flow and exchange of roles that are equally important and not something to be burdened by, trapped by, expected by, but to have the freedom to let them really be like in sacred rep, like the tantra. Like I think much about that because my work is very much about like the tantra of the body. And it's like, well, you can't have the magnetic without the electric or the electric without the magnetic to hold that space. And they're both so potent and powerful.
Mhm.
So I'm curious your thoughts on, you know, um, I especially love what you said about raising a son and a daughter, and um, in a world where that wound is still um, very much in the collective nervous system. How 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 can we begin to like source our answers about how we want to flow with these energies in a way that is not impeded so much by that, and that can then have the effect of actually changing culture and actually helping to be part of that force that's healing the rift that's out
Yeah.
there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Totally. I think, yeah, what's come for me and exactly what you're saying is like, so I realized that one of the things I didn't like, one of the things that really came up for me as I was doing these interviews and as I was like, compiling my own kind of like organic information about it is that I think my purpose, like why this stuff is coming in and channeling through me is that I am meant to be a bridge between men and women. And I
Mm,
think that I mean, what has felt really powerful is just having conversation that's not charged or heated or aggressive or hierarchical. I like how you said that. Like it is, I think like I was born in 1974 and that's the first year that women were allowed to own a bank account without a male cosigner. So like I
yeah.
am like even though
Yeah.
I still feel super young and like that's not very long, like I am
Right.
kind of the embodiment of this like feminist movement of like and my memory of that was like I remember I had a t-shirt that said the best man for the job is a woman, right? And like there's just been
Mm,
this like there's
mm.
just been this really like battle of the sexes, like if it's not you it's me, if it's not me it's you, like we're in competition with each other.
Us
um
versus them. Yeah, I like it. We
yes,
call that the
yes,
fight or flight in the nervous system. It's a state
yes,
of survival. Yes.
yes. And instead of it being like, hey, like, okay, equality needs to happen, yes. Like these things that needed to happen with the feminist movement, like hell yes, absolutely 100%. Did it did it happen in a beautiful way that took the best of both of us and elevated us? Or did did women feel like they had to just like compete and become like strengthen their masculine energy to be able to be this like badass persona in like a male dominated field or in
Right.
business or in and so I think that what I'm sensing and where this chasm kind of I mean the chasm's kind of been there, right? I don't think that there's like we were all combined together as a beautiful thing and then we fractured apart. I think that there's been lots of moments in history in which we've been fractured. But what I'm really like what I think I'm not sure what you're I might have gone away from your question a little bit, but this is what came to me is that
Go with that.
I think that there's still people have a really difficult time separating masculine from men and feminine from women. So like we're still talking
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
masculine, the feminine, and people are still envisioning man masculine,
Yeah.
woman
Yeah.
feminine.
Yes. I love that you're saying this. It makes me think of what I learned in my studies around like early nervous system development and how I think I might have shared this actually that night at the fire. It's actually because boys like have less of the oxytocin and some of those female hormones when they're born, they actually need even more nurturing when they first come into this world. And so instead of thinking like we need to like separate out the feminine experience from men so they can become men, it's this weird paradox where they actually need to be like fully bathed and nourished by like that mama, like maternal energy when they come into the world, which then actually activates their like boy hormones and their like ability to apply that to protection and direction and cultivation in these ways that are actually about the collective and not about like dominating women and children, but actually like being with them.
Mhm.
And so it also makes me think of what I learned from this shaman last week about how like what's happening on the planet right now in a way is like we are returning to mother god, or like the womb of god is how he said it, like the womb of the divine. And it makes me think also of this beautiful verse I saw in a Russian Orthodox church once, which had an image of Mary, and it just said in Latin, more spacious than the heavens, to represent like, oh, this is actually this beautiful fractal where this masculine light was born from this feminine womb. And there isn't, it's not a question of what came first, the chicken or the egg. It's this beautiful, like in the yin yang too, they talk about this, like you have to let something go all the way yin before you reach that dot. That's like the masculine bright point, and that's like the seed of light coming into the world. And then you have to go all the way into the yang and the brightness and the like heat of summer and summer solstice. And then like once you fully release into that, then you can come down into the darkness. And so it's meant to be this beautiful motion and this beautiful dance.
Mhm.
Um, and and so yeah, I guess, we're talking about the rift. And one of the things that's coming, and I'm also forgetting my question, but I love the way that this is happening because
Yeah.
it's like the feminine as I'm learning it, and maybe this is part of what we need to bring conscious too, is like as we learn these things, we just name them and we fumble through them and we embody them. And then the next week we're like, oh, it's actually more this and it's more that. And it's less fixed in that sort of perfectionistic way you said, which is like, I don't think masculine is even the right word for it. It's more the like rigidified masculine that's been separated from the feminine. And so maybe this is a good place to go to, because I would suspect, and I really want to, like, whatever you would want to share of some of the patterns you've seen from these conversations with men, in the same way that women have felt like the only way they can like make it in society is to neglect some of that feminine and to be more, for lack of a better word, more masculine.
Yeah, more in
I
the
also would
masculine energy.
imagine that
Yeah.
probably been mm, some like, oh, men feeling like they're not allowed to be in their feminine or their masculine in different ways, and feeling like they have to be stuck on one end of the polarity instead of fully inhabiting the two.
Yes.
I'm just really curious what from your actual conversations you're hearing in that regard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I already have a huge heart for men. Like I've just never, I've had, some wounding around men and sexuality, and my first sexual experience was non-consensual. Like there were things in my
Mm.
history where I could definitely have turned away from men and created, just a lot of anger and a lot of blocking, um and I just don't have that. Like and I think that's there's a piece of me that's like, okay, like I think that's one reason why I am supposed to be a bridge, is because I just am so open. Like I feel like one of the things that did men a huge disservice was to label masculine toxic. And I think that yes, there are toxic people, right? There are people that do toxic things, but it's really dangerous to label something that is so adhered to men, which we're trying to like take that away, right? Is like it doesn't masculine doesn't mean men. feminine doesn't mean women. We actually are a blend. And as we're evolving as a species, I think it's really necessary that we are able to like engage and integrate these two energies within us. And then the beauty of, relationship is to be able to dance in that. I love that you use that word dance because I do that all the time is like dance, integrating the masculine feminine within and then dancing with another that's also doing the same thing,
Yeah.
right? And polarities will shift as we're integrating and interacting. And so I feel like so in these interviews with men, like I just feel like my heart was already so open to them, but in them sharing their experiences of what it's like to be a man today, and growing up in this kind of like interesting shift where we're shifting from, you know, like women having more equality, having more power. Obviously, we're not there completely yet, right? I'm not making any political statements one way or the other. I think it's just my lived experience, my
Yes. Yeah.
observation,
Yeah.
how I
Yeah.
feel. Um, but what men often said is that it's really super confusing about how they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to act. They didn't have a lot of them. I talked about male role models. So I talked about like who were your male role models and what did they teach you about what it is to be a man when you were a boy or like a young man. Um, and so many of them got stuck. Like they were like, huh, like like really scrambling to think of like who was it that taught me. And honestly, it was a lot of like the messaging was, happy is okay, anger is okay,
Mm-hmm.
nothing else is
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if like so many men that had like this pivotal moment where they remember, like, okay, I was in the pickup truck with my father, I was 5 years old, and I was crying about something. And my dad looked at me and said, okay, you're old enough now, no more of that. Like, you're not allowed to, like, this is like your rite of passage is right now in this bucket seat. I'm going to tell you that you cannot cry anymore. And so,
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah.
many men
Mm-hmm.
that honestly, I would say, I don't know if this is the words they use, but they felt lost. And then, they're in a
Mm-hmm.
society that right now there's a lot of, like, unfortunately, a lot of unhealthy male role models that are displaying a lot of wounded masculine traits, and that got labeled as toxic. And so these men that are like, okay, I just figured that if I just swung all the way the pendulum all the way to the other side to where I'm just like a, happy life, happy wife, happy life, like I'm just gonna like let her make the decisions. I'm not gonna like step in, like they don't almost trust their intuition of
Yeah.
what they're
Yeah.
supposed to be
Yeah.
doing. And then
We talked about this in that circle a bit too,
yeah,
about how there's what the nice man or the nice
nice
guy
guy.
complex and how actually unsafe that feels for women, just like as if it was also a man who was aggressive, like those of us who've experienced that, but it can feel just as unsafe to be with a man who doesn't have his center and it's just
Yes.
basically deferring to you all the time. That feels just as just as bad. Yep.
Well, and then what it does in the polarity piece, right, is like he's in his wounded feminine, and then that forces the woman to be in her masculine. And I know me, again, speaking from my lived experience, if I'm in
Mm-hmm.
relationship where I have to make all the decisions, provide all the leadership, I'm doing the packing and the planning and all of the doing in the relationship, I'm not in my soft feminine. I'm not sexy, sensual, playful, fun, joyful. Like I'm literally in my like like I'm in my doing boss mode, and I don't love
Yeah.
that in
Yeah.
relationship. Like
Yeah.
I want to flow between those things. Like I don't expect
Yeah.
my partner to
Yeah.
always be packing, planning, do I don't want to throw that on him and say this is
Yeah.
your job, right? I feel like there needs to be a blending though, and there needs to be that, like, because I think what people complain a lot in relationship is, and I know a lot of the women that I was with in circle and that kind of thing would say, yeah, this is the polarity I'm frustrated with, is that, all the men I'm meeting are like, they're really agreeable. They really, like, they're not going to be like aggressive with me. I'm not worried about that. But then I'm having to, like, I don't feel like I'm in my sensual, joyful, playful, fun, funny energy,
Yeah.
because I'm so busy, like, making all the plans and doing all the things, and coming with, bringing all the leadership to the relationship.
Yeah. And I want to really like say here to anyone who's listening, like, first of all, like, I think a lot of us can relate with that. But secondly, like, I love your story and it's really resonating with a lot that's been happening in my story because it's not denying the way that culture has created these issues for women in the past that we are needing to reclaim. It's not saying to be just a pushover and a doormat, but what it is saying is that when we actually change the pattern in ourselves of how our nervous system has coped with that pain by becoming something that we actually doesn't feel true for us, when we let go of that in us is where we really start to see shifts in our life. And I know that's been the case for me, and I know it's been the case for you.
Yeah.
I know that it even like drew a next level relationship into your life.
Yeah.
So
So,
I just wonder what could we share about um how to take one's power back in this dynamic, because I do think the first step is seeing it and it makes sense to me. And I
yeah.
had this phase as well of like why we need to get really pissed, because from a nervous system perspective, when you don't see the pattern, it's just frozen and you're like just going about your life. And when you see it, all this pent up energy of like, holy shit, I've been living in a lie. And like, it's very hard not to just project that on blame someone else, the ways that we've been swallowing our own pain and then try to put it outside. But this beautiful energy that you're inhabiting and that we're invoking in this conversation is about something that's a step beyond that. So how I wonder what you would advise around how to step past the phase of the anger and the blaming and the frustration about the ways that, and even in a world where I think a lot of women can relate to this like feeling of what's that joke like of just like something about dating these days, like you can't, like there is no that people talk about like just like the more that we grow as women, the more like we're like evolving past the men and stuff like this, as if like there is no more good men out there and they're all just falling away like flies. And it's like, yeah, there's still some scarcity in that thinking. I think that there is some truth in like our world is like we're seeing some of the rift more clearly. And like whatever the issue is, I have noticed that it always gets louder right before we enter a new paradigm. So we
Yeah.
go from like everything seems the same to like, why is this really intense thing showing up in my life all the time? But it's not because it's the truth. It's because you're actually about to step into a new pattern and break whatever way of thinking or operating that's kept you in a stuck dynamic or a scarcity way of thinking. So yeah, what would you say around this particular topic of breaking through that scarcity around there are no good men, and despite all of this wounding of the last 2000 plus years on the planet and blah blah blah,
So
like
big.
what's actually like tell us what's the truth about like love and
Yeah.
reciprocity and calling
Oh.
in a powerful partner that can meet us and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. This is the nugget, right? This is like, okay, I wish I had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're good. Yeah, I think,
That would be too masculine,
I
Shawndi.
I know. Oh, what does my intuition say? Um, what comes from, like, what I feel like, what kind of like, because that, like, I had this realization, then I'm like, what do I do with it? Like, what can I do with it? And I think it comes down to like so many things in our life, right? The only thing we have control over is us, right? I mean, like we can't control the dating pool. We can't control what men and women are doing. We can't control the growth of like our communities, right? Like we can step into things like I am where I'm like just willing to have conversations and like maybe things come out of that and then I have some resources and then I'm like, yeah, like maybe listen to this, see if it resonates with you. You know, there's ways in which we can spark change. But really the biggest thing is the only person and the only energy we can really control is ourselves, right? And so I
Yeah.
think like the biggest
Yeah.
thing for me was really just looking inward and figuring out where these energies are showing up, why they're showing up, which ones are wounded, and what aspects of them are actually healthy. So like there's healthy masculine, healthy feminine, and that's what I think, you know, when people talk about being whole, right? Like I'm whole, I want a whole person, like, and then we're going to be whole together, right? It's like, okay, what does that even mean? And I think what I've come to is like wholeness for me is is understanding the masculine and the feminine energy within me and being able to heal those energies to the point where to the best of my ability I show up with healthy masculine and healthy feminine as much of the time as I possibly can. And do I mess up? Oh hell yeah, I mess up. And then you know I have a growth mindset, so yay, like I messed up, the obstacle is the
Yeah.
way, right? um
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
like just even diving inward is has been my experience of like diving inward, realizing like, ooh, this is where like I'm really get stuck in this like healthy or this wounded feminine like anxious attachment, let's just say, right? That's been a history pattern of mine.
Hmm. Hmm.
um and then just really recognizing like what are those qualities, what are those feelings, like even just somatically, like when like that shows up as, you know, like this rock in the pit of my stomach when
Hmm.
something happens and I'm really anxious about it, for example. And
Hmm.
then just like trying to think of like where is that anchored to? Like the life coach that I worked with, he used a ton of like music to really tap into somatics, and there was some just amazing beauty in unlocking like where is that wounded piece tethered to, and
Yeah.
how can I tend to that version of me, right? That wounded inner child that you know that showed up for a reason, for protection, right? Like that's a lot of like internal family systems parts work, right? um
Mhm.
but just kind of like teasing apart those little pieces, and then you're like you're so busy working on yourself healing your own energies, you know, um that I think just a natural evolution of like bringing up your energetic vibration is going to
Yeah.
naturally pull like
Yeah.
people of high vibration to you. I think
Yeah.
when we have
Yeah.
this like
It's a
scarcity
force of the
mindset,
universe. It's the way
right?
reality works. It's like geometric. It's like gravitational fields. Yep.
Yes. Yes, I love like there's a book called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, and she's like she talks a ton about that, about high vibration energy attracts high vibration energy. Like how do we get
And I
high
and I have to pause to say I love this because I think a lot of people mistake high vibration with sort of that untethered toxic masculine energy of like I'm going to stay above it. But what you're describing is actually having the courage to sink into the feelings, the body, whatever's there. I would add, like, not necessarily to believe it or become fully flooded by it, but to tend it, like you said, to be in conversation and relationship that has none of that judgment and that blaming energy that has been the source of the poison of the rift between
yeah,
all of us, right? And so that being with energy, um, it's this irony of like when you drop in, then you raise your frequency and then life comes, like life changes. So
yeah,
I just love that. I think it's such an important reframe of what high frequency actually means. It's not a hierarchy, it's actually an integration of the whole. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think it can be like high frequency can also be assumed as like extroverted and like hyper and happy and all these things, right? And it's like it's really, yeah, and it happens naturally like as we
Mm,
settle with the, you know, we kind of like reclaim the now, and we're not as much in like past and not as much in wounding and not as much in blame, and And yeah,
Yeah.
this scarcity mindset or like victim, like victim
Yeah.
mentality is very low vibration energy. So when we're in this like, oh, society's done this to me, or feminism have done this to me, or the patriarchy has done this to me, or all of those things are totally valid. And I am not saying by any means, like anyone that's listening, like, if you still have anger and frustration and like wounding around those things, like understandable, like I totally get that. um but
In fact, those are probably the parts that need us to be with them so we can evolve them.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So that it doesn't be the end of this, it doesn't remain the end of the
yep,
story.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
Because if you hold on to
Yeah.
that, like that's where you're going to stay, right? Like it's going to anchor
Hmm.
you down in this low vibration, and then you're just going to continue to pull low vibration towards you. And
Yeah.
if you want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
elevate, like
Yeah.
you want to see like a new pool of people that you can be in relationship with, whether it's friendship or romantic relationship, or a new high vibrational energy, even with your family or people that
Mhm.
you're stuck with, really in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
really it's just that, and the beauty of that is there's so much power in the fact that
Yes.
really it's just you that needs to change, and
Yes.
then
Yeah.
everyone else around you is going to too,
Yeah.
or they're going to drop off, right? Like
Right.
the people
Right.
in your life that can't be with your new
Hmm.
energy are going to naturally
Hmm.
move on, and then eventually maybe like you are a model, and and they can look to that and say, wow, like that shifted, what shifted for them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like so many people, like even of faith, like there's a lot of people that are trying to like get you to believe things, or get you to understand things, or get you to like influence you in one way or the other. And it's like my personal feeling has always been like, live your life that way and people will notice and people will ask,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is it that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
doing? Because
Yeah.
you're so filled with joy.
Right, right. It's such an empowering message. And again, another one of those reframes, because a lot of times when people hear, oh, I'm the one that needs to change, we cripple it with like that toxic masculine, like, oh, I need to fix something else about myself. I'm so broken. But
Mhm.
what I'm hearing you say is like, no, actually, it's actually about stopping that altogether. So the change is to stop that altogether and let this whole spectrum be here without any of that judgment or any of that trying to fix
Yep.
or hide. So it's really, a journey of coming home to oneself. And I love what you said too about like bringing the masculine and feminine and not doing it perfectly, because from like a nervous system perspective, like every time the sun rises and sets, like our nervous system and our hormones are doing different things that are quote unquote more masculine or feminine, depending on the time of day or what we ate for lunch. And so there's like, it's a flow, really. It's not like a gotta do this right, gotta do this right. And I think there's so much healing for all of us around letting go of that perfectionism. It's so
Yeah.
powerful and such an empowering message for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, I think this might be a nice maybe closing question, because I know you spoke on this in your talk that you gave at Unity, which was so beautiful to hear you tell me the story about. But what's your vision of the world where men and women and the masculine and feminine are healed and in harmony for all of us?
Oh, uh, it's so good. It's so beautiful. So yeah, that's a great. So I just came off of a weekend last weekend where there's a men's work organization called Sacred Sons that started out doing men's work, and then they really like they had wonderfully powerful women that were involved, and that said like the next level of this work is co-ed. So the next level of this work is men and women coming together with their blends of experience and energies and like intuitions and history and story, um and really let's interweave together so that we can hold the whole container, right? So like there's definitely like men that don't feel comfortable with men, there's women that don't feel comfortable with women, there's men that don't feel comfortable with women, and vice versa, right? So like how can we create these spaces in which the whole container is represented and the whole container is held with all of these energies and all of these histories, and it was so remarkable. Like I honestly, like I
Mm,
felt like I walked into this room of 60 people and like instantly felt like tribe. Um,
mm,
and so much of it, I think, is that, to answer your question, like, what's my vision? I think, of course, with any kind of relationship, it always starts with individual work, right? Like, so what we just spoke of is like people, I needed to do this. And if we want to do this collectively, like, I feel safe to say like we need to do this where we come
yeah,
inside, we look at, and it's really a matter of like, I would say the good words for it are like radical acceptance. Like you've been through what you've been through, like it's been your history, it's been your narrative, like that stuff needs to be tended to, like the wounding and the pain and all of the things that everyone has experienced, like needs to
yeah,
be witnessed
yeah,
and held and 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 cared for, right? And then we can all be like integrating and working, and it's never done, right? We're never totally done. Like there's things that peel back, there's things that peel back. And so I think my vision is really like kind of adding to what we just said about kind of like that evolution of what happens in us to make us whole, and then just having these really deep understanding and conversations, and like and just knowing that we're all here together, we all need each other, we all want the same thing. I mean, in all reality, like we all want to be seen, be held, be heard, be understood. Like at the end of the day, like we want to know that we made a difference, we want to know that like our purpose matters, our existence matters, right? And so I think my vision is that we have just this like massive healing process individually and then collectively, and we understand that, like, again, this weekend, with Sacred Sons, it was very much like this space of community healing and realizing that like we're all trying to heal ourselves, and there's also a beautiful container that can be created within our communities, within our families, where we can do collective healing and
mm,
holding space for one another to have our processes, and that even witnessing other people healing is healing for us. Like I just
mhm,
had these moments where I'm watching these men and these women having these breakthrough experiences of processing, and
yeah,
I'm feeling the healing, not only
yes,
just of them but
yeah,
of me
yeah,
within that.
yeah.
um
It's rewrite. It just makes me think how it's rewriting our scripts of what we've seen between
yeah.
men and women. So just to actually witness a healing conversation between a man and woman doesn't even matter if you know them. It resets your entire script about what that can look like. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, just sobbing like all weekend, just sobbing. And just to recognize, like, I think one of the things that was so remarkable for me is that we can create radical safety for one another to be able to process these things. And when you can process something with witnessing, like other people witnessing it, and then just being like, just group hug at the end and just like holding each other and rocking and humming and singing and like, it might sound like pretty woo woo, but it is honestly so remarkable to have, because your deepest fears sometimes are like, if people knew this about me, they would know I'm not worthy of love, right?
Yeah.
And so when
Right.
you're able to like actually express like, this really terrible thing happened to me and I'm scared as hell to have it be out there and have it be known, and no one comes back and says anything bad, they're like, oh my gosh, like we love you so much and you're worthy and you're meant to be here. And that happened to me too, and witnessing you say it like was so healing for me and all of things. So I think my vision is not like an end point. It's not like this is the finish line, this is what we're all going to be like singing kumbaya and like sitting in each other's lap or whatever, but it's really just this evolution of like comfort within, a comfort
Mhm.
within, like a radical acceptance of
Mhm.
ourselves and what we've been through, no matter what that is. And then
Mm.
and then being able to like how I've expressed it is like fill ourselves up with so much love that we love from the overflow. That like we're not
Yeah.
expecting other humans to complete us
Yeah.
or to fill some hole. You know, that we know that we are already complete and growing and evolving, and like we're never going to be like this, you know, like that's part of it, right? Is like we're just going to continue to grow and evolve and change and shift and vibrate, you know. Um
Mhm.
and that we can all just like just be at ease with ourselves and how complete we are, and then just share that with each other. I mean, that's what that felt like this weekend, is just this beautiful sharing of unconditional love, support, and ability to like just be present with each other.
Yeah. And I'm really hearing this shift away from seeing anybody else as um bit like filling something to being a reflector or a mirror, being someone that is just amplifying the truth of our interconnection, you know,
Mm.
because I think also another way that this, what you're saying, which is so beautiful, can get co-opted by, I find like in this conversation, I'm like I'm wanting to also like catch like the way that the toxic patriarchal mindset would then take it and make it something else and say like, oh, I'm already complete, so that means I'm good. I don't ever need to like be in a relationship again or like go into this vulnerable place with the opposite gender or but it's actually or whatever who or intimacy in general of whoever you choose. But like what I'm actually hearing is it's actually just a rewriting of how we are in relationship and a new level of, and maybe even for the first time, real intimacy, right? That word intimacy, which is into me see. How can you
Yeah.
see into someone and how can they see into you when
Uh,
either or both of you are using you to validate each other? You cannot really see each other when that is happening. And so there's just a whole different way of being that's possible on the other side. That's, yeah, so beautiful. So tell everybody who's listening what, like, I'm wondering, what are the next steps for you? Or, I mean, maybe just the next step. You don't have to know the steps, just like in this unfolding, and how can people support what the work you're doing, like in terms of like if they're also feeling called to be a part of this mission, you know?
Mhm. I love that. That's a great question. I like don't do social media. I've never like, you know, I don't know how this evolves like as far as like, you know, joining me, but I had a very good friend call me. He named me the love ambassador. And I love that so
Love
much.
it. Love
It felt like it
ambassador.
fit. Yeah.
Yes.
And but I know that I'm not like it's not just me paving this path. Like there is like I am a vessel of something bigger, and this is like I am amassing the love ambassadors, right? Like this is a plural thing. This is not just me. I'm not meant to do this alone.
Mhm.
And so I
Mhm.
think that there is going to be like, you know, there's women's work, there's men's work. I really feel called to create co-ed work, co-ed circles.
Mhm.
I've attempted it some have been really good, some have been not so good, but like even I'm probably most grateful for the not so good because it's been
Yeah.
really illuminating for me. Um, you know, all that is like when people have a reaction to like me entering men's space, for example, all it tells me is that those people, those individuals have been really wounded, and I go to a place of like really deep empathy for what they've been through in their life, that like that me as a sister coming in with an empathetic heart and like and true intention to bridge, like that can be intimidating or you know, that there can be a lot of resistance toward that. So I'm really like I still really feel, even though it's scary and unpredictable and unknown to like get men and women together to do this work together. Um, this past weekend really showed me that that is this next level of work. I really feel like
Yeah.
that's the next level of work, and so um, I guess maybe they
Yeah.
can get a hold of me through you. But I don't know yet. I locally I go to Unity. It's a spiritual community. It's amazing. I've thought about doing some work through them, like starting some circle work through them. I also have made connections with men that do men's work in the area that we've kind of talked about brainstorming some community things. I have done a community conversation group around all things relationship, and that's been really fun and illuminating. And we're
Yeah.
kind of wrapping that up so that there's
Yeah.
probably a next evolution to
Yeah.
that somewhere. But
Well, it sounds
um,
like, if someone is involved in any of this work already, that they would have a reason to reach out just to talk to you and, join the conversation. And
yeah,
then for people who would be interested to be participants in, like, say, a future circle,
yeah,
if you do create an offering, just send it to me and we'll put it underneath this video so that because this will just be on my channel forever, so
great,
until YouTube doesn't work or whatever.
right?
So we can always refer them to here and
I love it.
get a link to whatever you create, which I know will just be lovely because I really admire the way that you are weaving the masculine and feminine and how you're going about this process. That mix of that, and even in the way that I've been like, I always notice energy in somatics, but like even as you're talking, like the way you move between this like deeply aligned, empowered, like self-sourcing energy and this like deeply like soft and fluid and chaotic and you can't pin it down like feminine energy. Like it's like, you know, um, we are
Yeah,
all learning as long as we're here. And there's a way to be in the learning journey that is fun and playful and not always easy, but like so healing and can be quite enjoyable. That's
yeah,
like a message I always like to do too. It's like chain breaking that healing paradigm that you have to like work hard and labor and fix yourself. But no, it's actually like settling into the seat of this beautiful learning experience that we have as humans.
yes.
So, thank you so much for the good work that you're doing, not just what you're doing, but how you're going about it. It's really been a pleasure to get to know you and to feel like that love ambassador energy. It's effervescent. It bubbles off of you. And may we continue to connect with all of the love ambassadors out there.
Yes, yes, I'm drawing you in. I'm drawing you in. I love
Yay.
that.
Thank
Thank you so much.
you.
This has been so fun and like the first time I've done something like this, so it's been really incredible to have a conversation with you and thank you too. Like we've had some really really amazing enlightening just eye-opening conversations that like and I just that is the way that I think we're meant to be here. You know, we're meant to be here in community. We're meant to be here in connection and conversation, and I am such a creature of connection. Like anytime I can get that, I'm like, yes, let's talk about deep stuff. So I just so grateful to you for allowing me to be here today, and I'm just excited to see what bubbles up and evolves with you and I as well.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And thank you everyone for listening to the end if you're still here.
Yes.
And
You.
yeah, reach out to either of us. I'm holding my initiation container for women in the heroine's journey, but I have lots of new percolations happening the more I tap into my feminine energy. So who knows where that will go next. And yeah, many blessings.